Two Jack Bros! Two Jack Bros!
Welcome back to Two Jack Bros, and if it is your first time, welcome to you as well, and thank you for giving us a shot. I am Sidney. I am sitting next to the world champion, Ansley.
Hello.
And today our guest is none other than the Jamie Pappas.
Wow, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I'm not a world champ. Maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
Well,
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
If you don't mind me asking, what would you be a world champ in?
Honestly, probably just existing. Like, I'm pretty good at just being a person.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, all right, look out for Jamie in the World Existing Championships.
Yeah, beat that.
Yeah. The World X Games.
Yes.
Existing.
I don't know if I have like a singular talent that I could claim top of, but like I'm just a pretty good overall hang.
Okay. I'm fun to kick it with.
Yeah.
World champ.
World champ and kicking it.
You want to like sit on the couch and drink? World champ.
Yeah, so we're very happy to have you, Jamie. And you have a show really quick. We'll just like plug that really quickly. What is your show?
Yeah, Shaylin Forshee and I run This Should Be Good comedy. We have shows we produce through Helium at different venues throughout the city. We got one coming up October 12th. I'm not sure when this will air, but October 12th. It's soon enough.
Before October 12th, if I get my shit together.
Yeah, let's get your shit together.
If not, we'll probably have another date. So just follow This Should Be Good comedy on Instagram.
Way to sell it, Jamie.
Yeah.
Hell
She's
yeah.
killing it.
She is killing
World
it.
champion.
World champion. Man.
Just hanging, you know?
Yeah.
She wasn't wrong. All right. So, Jamie, do you know how this podcast works?
I listened to a few. I'm
Okay.
fearful.
All right. Cool. That's a good sign. So the way that it works, if it's your first time, basically we're trying to prove that you can have a sense of humor and still reach enlightenment or a higher consciousness, if you will. So what we do is we take our guest, who today is you, Jamie, through the process of enlightenment so that our listeners and Ansley and myself can laugh our ways to a higher consciousness without doing all the work that you're about to do.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah? I was nailing that until I pluralized way at the end. That was unnecessary, but we're moving on.
I already wanted to clear up why I was fearful.
Yeah?
It's because I'm an easy cry. I cry very easily, and people don't know that side of me.
Okay.
So I already was mentally prepping about a cry.
All right.
And it going viral for you
Nice.
guys.
Yeah. Now I'll be
Yeah.
really disappointed if we don't
I
get
know.
a cry.
How disappointing would that be?
It's a lot of pressure.
It
Yeah.
is a lot of pressure, but I think we can make her cry.
Yeah. New goals.
Yes.
We typically don't go for that on this podcast, but today we will.
Yeah.
Today we will. So everybody gets the same questions. Ansley, let's get started.
Yes. Jamie, what situation or event did you learn the most information from?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit pre-recording, but I was a nanny for about 10 years, and I will always say that that was the hardest job and the most I've ever learned from. And I've had a pretty, I'll say, turbulent life that I've learned a lot from, but that by far is something I always go to for like life lessons and things I've learned about.
Were you in other people's house, nanny?
I never lived with another family, but I've
Okay.
traveled with families.
How many how many different families?
Yeah,
were
the
you with?
first family, 3 families that
Three
I was like
families.
very serious with. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
ages did you go to and from?
Yeah, so the first family, I met them when they had twins that were 18 months old, and I was with them on and off till the set of twins was about 8.
Mm-hmm.
Then it became, they had a third kid, and then it was like date nights every now and then. I'm still friendly with the family, but
Is that what nannies say when they still work with a family? Friendly? They call it friendly?
no. I actually
I
like,
that was an industry term.
we had, yeah, we're friends. I'm a good hang boy. Yeah. No, I like, I see them in the summertime, and like, we're just close. Like, because once you see that much of someone's family, like you're in it with them.
Like, you feel like you have a special bond with those kids that like.
Yeah, and
forever?
I haven't, to be honest, because of COVID and things, like I haven't seen them in a while. Like I've run into the mom like just by chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very unique situation to be in, even if you take care of a kid 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And it's also unique because depending on how young the kids are, they don't remember that. Like they have core memories, like they'll see you and like know that you're part of their life somehow, but
Yeah.
they don't remember you like wiping their butt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though I did it for years.
Yeah.
Did you ever hit a kid?
No.
Okay.
You ever
I
want to?
like accidentally like I had a kid, like I'll never forget, that's one of the first days I was like with a new family, like the kid tripped and like fell into my knee and I felt so bad. Yeah.
You didn't give any like little like as he was coming into the knee, you didn't give
No, I truly was like, it was just one of those falls, and I'm like a big like let kids try things out kind of person, and he was like testing out some balance, and it was just a trip, but I'll never forget it. Obviously, like you just feel like could have done something, but what?
One of those let this kid face plant into my knee kind of things.
Let him learn a lesson about face planting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the most difficult thing about the job?
Honestly, twofold. Like in terms of a job, it's having to adhere to someone else's rules, even though you're the one that's solely in charge during the day and the people are away.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I maybe would have parented differently, I'm adhering to someone else's rules no matter what. Even though they say I'm in charge, I like to keep it consistent with the parents. So if the parents would let them do something, a lot of times I would say, nope, like babysitter Jamie's here. This is my role. Yeah. But adhering to that, but then, can you rephrase the question one more time? Because I'm babbling already.
Yeah. What was the question?
And what was the hardest thing about the job?
Yeah. So that, right. Because I was splitting it in two. So like as a job, that's the hardest. And then I guess personally it's just being in people's home and intimate settings. Like I've gone to like family weddings with these people that need a like babysitter. I've seen ups, downs, like births, deaths, like family parties. Like you're just them fighting while you're just like washing a dish in the corner. Like you just see so much.
Yeah.
That's really difficult because you're not in it, but you're in it. Yeah. And then you can't give too much opinion, and like, but they'll ask you for your opinion. So you're right on, like you're towing a line the whole time.
She being a bitch.
oh, I've been in those.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I always just put a hand up. I say I'm team wife, and I'm out.
Yeah.
No matter what it is.
Yeah. Man.
Okay. So if you had to, just based off the observation that you had from the nannying experience, what would you say from observation, not necessarily from your life, but from what you observed? What would you say makes a good relationship? What would you say makes a good parent? Or if you have to contextualize that a little differently, what would make an ideal relationship and what would make an ideal parent?
Okay, relationship as the couple raising the kid. Ideally, just clarity and honesty. I know that's pretty standard, but I see there's just miscommunication always, like of what people meant, and in terms of rules and everything. And a lot of times people feel like there's a good cop, bad cop parent situation, but people don't disclose that first, like what the expectations are of the partner. So I think clear expectations, that can really resolve anything. Like, because a lot of times you get mad at someone, and you know, people often use like the dishes, like, oh, my partner doesn't do the dishes or whatever. But it's like, did you guys establish that early on that that's something that bothers you? And if the dishes bother you and don't bother that person, was that ever established? So I see that a lot in relationships where it's like, he or she's not doing X, Y, Z, and I'm like, what did you ever talk about that? Like, was that learned? Has that grown and developed? Because having kids, as soon as you have kids, you're with a different partner. Like people change completely, entirely, and things you would never be able to expect. So I think that clarity and expectations for a relationship.
I think we have a very fluid way that we decide which one is the bad cop in a discipline situation.
Yeah.
I feel like whoever...
You rock, paper, scissors.
Whichever parent makes the kids go, what the fuck is wrong with that?
Yeah, you get to stay bad cop.
You got that.
Yeah.
Right? That's pretty much how it works out.
Yeah, we always have to make sure that we only have one bad cop.
Right.
Because whenever you get two bad cops, we're like, whoa, we got to stay.
Right. And it has to be clear. Yeah.
You know, while she's bad copping, I also had some bad cop shit I wanted to get off my
Yeah. And another thing. Yeah.
And then everybody in the house is just screaming.
Yeah. We just need some clarity. Or it's just things like bother you. Like things, you can't let anything build up, especially if there's kids.
Yeah.
You have to be like, hey, this sucked. This is why it sucked. Like, we got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel like the experience of you being a nanny and observing not just a relationship, but like you said, this growing relationship and family coming together, does that make you better in your relationship?
As in, I've been single for 8 years. Yeah.
Oh, you're single?
Yeah, as in I don't trust and won't have a partner. Yeah.
Okay.
It definitely opened me up to a lot of things. And when I first,
it's just impossible.
I watch things, and like I've seen wonderful relationships.
Yeah.
But when you see it inside out, and you're just there and in their house, and you're just listening to it, and I'm like, oh my God. I actually had a serious boyfriend when I started with the first family. And a couple times, like, they would go away, like, they would leave me with all 3 kids, or the twins when they were really young. And I had, my boyfriend would come, like, babysit with me sometimes, which is something I would never, ever do because I'm, like, very professional. But sometimes when I was home alone with 2 babies in the city, it was just, like, easier to have him there, like, emergency times. And there were just times where I was like, this is the closest partner I could have seen to having a life together. And I just with the kids for a few days, and I was like, I don't know, like, this would be very hard.
But it's also somebody else's, like, I think, like,
somebody else's kids, totally.
Coming into, like, a situation with somebody else's kids, I imagine, like, might be harder, very different for a man.
Totally.
Embrace.
And but there are just things where I'd be like, do that. And he was great with the kids. Like, I'm not even knocking him. Shout out, not going to say his name, but he did great. He really did. But it really just made me think about so many other layers to it.
Yeah.
And I just, from that point on, haven't I date, but I haven't ever dated someone I could see, like, partner worthy yet.
Yeah.
And when you look at partner worthy, you're looking at it through the lens of what a relationship could be from your experience from nannying and stuff. You're like,
yeah. So I think of it,
because, like, here's what I'm saying. I think you might have it's possible your look might be too deep.
I've seen too much is what I always tell people, because people ask me, like, do you want to have kids? And I'm like, I can't even answer that question because I don't know. Like, most people have kids without having seen it and been in it. And that's why most people have kids, because they don't know what's about to come. You could read as many books and be around as many kids as possible, but unless you've been left alone with 3 kids for 5 days, like, no, you have no idea what's coming.
Okay. So being a nanny was the situation that you learned the most experience from. So how would you distill in, like, a sentence what it is that you learned from that?
This is something I tell everyone, but everything in life is a gray area, like, not black and white. With parenting, anything, I think I'll just speak for myself. I feel like I grew up, like, thinking things were so black and white, relationships, everything, like, right, wrong, black, white, and truly everything's
confuse you.
Yeah. Well, the gray area are your kids.
Especially your son.
The
son is quite a gray area.
But everything, like, every decision, nothing's 100% good, nothing's 100% bad. Everything's going to impact it. I think that's what I learned with the impacting of a kid. Like, I would go home so worried some days. I'd be, oh man, I was a little harsh on that punishment or something, and, like, really thinking about it. I was like, no, that kid understands the structure. They haven't thought about that conversation since it happened. Like, everything is going to impact someone differently and not the same way I'm perceiving it, because everything is gray area.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that. Cool. All right. Now, Jamie, so from here on out, we're going to be opening up your chakras.
Bring it on.
The first chakra is the root chakra located in the butthole. Are you okay with that?
On camera?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So that was consent. Ace, take it away.
All right. So, Jamie, how did you learn to overcome fear?
Yeah. So I am one of those people that, like, I'm anxious and, like, small things scare me, but big things really.
I'm sorry.
I feel like I handled. Scared yourself.
We're back after a technical difficulty. Thank you for being patient, everybody.
You're welcome.
Now, Jamie, you were explaining how you overcame fear, and you were saying that little things scare you, and then I was very immature.
Yeah. But I didn't jump that bad, but we can play the tape back. Yeah. So I am one of those people, like, things haven't, like, big things that scare, like, typical things, like, don't ever really scare me. Like, typical fears, like public speaking, like, things like that have never really scared me. But small things, like I called Shaylin and asked about the parking situation here, because I was like, things like, but that goes to how I overcome anything I'm scared of, is just preparation. So it's a little much, like, the anxiety and making sure I have an idea of what's going on definitely, like, resolves a lot of any of that fear. So just kind of being understanding what's happening. A lot of fear of the unknown, I guess, then, is my biggest fear.
A lot of Googling, sounds like.
A lot of Google Maps.
Like, what are your, like, so he, like, I forget what we were doing, but, like, I had maybe a job interview or something, and he was like, well, why don't you go there the day before so you can, like, you know, see where
see the entrance,
and see where it is, and, like, not have to deal with that. And I was like, I had never done anything like that in my life. I was like, this is genius. Are there other, like, hacks that you do for that preparation?
Yeah, I know. I've listened to Romy's episode. She talked about this a little, and my mom's a therapist. So my mom, whenever I'm, like, anxious or scared of something, she's always like, did you write it down? What's worst case scenario?
Yeah.
Like whenever I think of something, and a lot of people's anxiety is like thinking worst case scenario. But for me, I'm like, okay, what literally is the worst thing that can happen? And I often find myself, I'm a little jaded when people will be like, oh, I'm so scared of this. And I'm like, literally what could happen? Like, did like say what are you worried about? If it's like something at work or something, I'm like,
Yeah.
what's the biggest problem? And then think about it that way. And you're like, it kind of closes that gap of the unknown.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you think of a time in your life when you were the most scared? And this could be any time in your life from childhood till now.
Yeah. Actually, just about 2 weeks ago, I had 3 family members in the hospital on the same day. It was a wild ride. I had a text from my mom that said, something's wrong. I have to go be with your sister. Don't ask me any questions. So that was a cool text to get in the middle of a work meeting. I would have called her the next day because luckily we're on the mend. We're all good right now.
Yeah.
But I was like, hey, I want you to read that text back that you sent to your middle child who sweats about parking lots.
Yeah.
And just let me know how you feel about that text.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know you weren't in your right. You weren't thinking at all, obviously. And I didn't take it to heart, but I read that text and I was like, this is what I've prepped for. Something has gone off wrong. Like I am one of those people that like, I have a fire ladder in my apartment. Like I was a little kid, like scared of house fires. Like I learned about house fires, but I did the preparation. So I have a ladder and I have like a waterproof, fireproof safe in my house for like photos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, now I'm not so scared of that. Cause the thing that I was scared about is you asked me like if I was little and said I was scared of fires. This is actually so messed up. Your kids are young. They were fire safety when we were little, but it was always stop, drop. The most heinous things, like stop, drop, and roll, and like basically jump out a window, like not helpful things.
Yeah.
But I watched something, and they were like, put your things in a pillowcase, like everything you would want in your room in a pillowcase. And I had a recurring dream about a fire when I was little. Like that was a big fear. So my stepdad one day was like, this is crazy. Like the house is not gonna, like you can't be this anxious. And he like went to thinking like my Game Boy and stuff would be in there. But it was a picture of my grandmother who had just passed away, my dad who's dead, and a stuffed animal I got when I was like a baby.
Aww.
And he just put it back in the pillowcase and we never talked about it again.
Why is this girl so afraid of loss? Like,
Yeah. He just pulls out pillowcase of death.
Okay. All right. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about a fire ladder?
Yeah. I like bought one myself and I was like, wow, I'm really living.
Nice. So do you, just out of curiosity, do you also have a fire blanket?
No,
Okay.
just a ladder.
Just right out the window.
Well, now I know what I'm ordering tonight.
Yeah. Okay. So again, like the time that you remember that you were most scared was just over the idea of fire.
I think the fire, but then also just my family all being sick at the same time was really scary.
Gotcha.
The unknown, again, it was a combination fear of the unknown, but having to be there, and me not knowing how to help also is like a really scary situation to be in, where you're like, just show up, but be there and be in fear.
Yeah.
Now, were you an over prepper at that time, or did that help kind of like push you into the over?
You know what's funny? I am always an over prepper, and my sister is pregnant, so this is part of what was happening. Everything, baby's here. Shout out Sophia. But my mom had been telling me like, pack a bag. Like she just had like this weird feeling. And I called Shaylin because I was like, of all times, I'm not prepared and didn't pack a suitcase ahead of time, was the day I got that text. And I was like, I packed, I think I put my prom dress in that suitcase. I don't know what was happening.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've gotten a little bit better because there is a fine line of it being neurotic. So I'm trying to
You don't think you've crossed that line?
No, I have. That's why I'm trying to pull back, and the preparedness of like being prepared and just wanting some understanding. A lot of times, like I'm the planner, my friends, and they think I'm a little like too crazy about it. We call it like chill Jamie coming out when we just hang, but I just like an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't need minute by minute. Just like what's the hang, you know?
Yeah.
Can I get a vibe check, please?
Yeah. 1 2 1 2.
All right, cool. Well, we'll consider that a fear chakra unlocked.
Yes.
Ansley, keep it moving.
So, Jamie, this segment we like to call My Bad. It's an opportunity for you to apologize to a person, place, or thing in order to set your karma back to neutral.
We just got done doing Jamie's Patreon episode. And
Amazing.
boy, yes. It got
Amazing.
She leaned in for the darkness.
I got
It was
crazy.
fun. So, you had a good time?
I had a blast.
Yeah, hell
What
yeah.
else would I have been doing today?
I don't know.
Me either.
Yeah, I haven't seen
I'll
your
check my planner.
Yeah, I haven't seen your- So, it's an inside joke for the Patreon. You'll see. $1 gets you all of our exclusive content, which not only includes the counter to this podcast, which we call 2 Jack Rose After Dark, where we enlighten our guest's shadow self, but also our fight commentary and analysis that we do on Ansley's jiu-jitsu matches. So now,
You got it out.
Yeah, I did get that out. I couldn't breathe.
Impressive.
I was like, that was all one breath.
Yes.
I feel like I should have paid $1 to watch that happen.
It's happened before.
Yeah.
That's what these dollars are right here. So, we're going to get back to this episode now, and you're going to find out who or what Jamie has to apologize to.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I'm apologizing to someone. Got it. Probably the obvious, my mom. I think about things like my mom raised my sister and I by herself till in 3rd grade. Till I was in 3rd grade, she married my stepdad at that point. I just think about things I said or did when she was just trying to be helpful, or just obviously I have so much more perspective gained, as we all do growing up. And I think about things, and now when I look at like what age my mom was when certain things happened, I just have said some things, like mouthed off real quick. Even today I sent her a text and I was like, wish I could unsend that one. And just small things where I'm like, God, this woman's been through hell and back. And sometimes I just still fire off comments at her. So does that count? Mom, are you listening?
Yeah. I mean, can you remember, I mean, not necessarily the more recent ones, but can you remember some of the things that you said in your youth? Especially 3rd grade is pretty young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been, like, I will say, like, a softie. Like, I've always been, like, a sweet kid, but I always had a snark to me. I mean, one thing that I will always want to apologize for, I was very little when this happened. I must have been 5 or 6 when this happened. My mom, someone stole her purse out of her car in our driveway. So the cops came and we're like filing a police report and we're like looking and being very condescending to her. Like, did you look here? Instead of just, she lost her, like, we knew exactly what happened. So I thought it was funny because even then doing bits, I was like in the laundry room by myself, basically hiding. And I said I found it. And at the time, I didn't.
Like, yeah.
They all ran in the room. At the time, I didn't know how bad it was. But so I said, my dad passed away before my mom knew she was pregnant with me. And in that purse, she had earrings he had given her and like something else of his. Yeah. So I didn't know that. Obviously, I was 5. So when she ran in thinking the purse was there. Oh, no. So now I know that I was a little asshole. So just things like that. I was always giving her a hard time because you don't know the magnitude of anything as a kid. And not that I would apologize for that. I'm sure it brings her laughs now because they did actually find her purse, like cash and stuff stolen. Someone just like threw it behind a supermarket. But the stuff that she wanted out of it was in the bag.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is pretty impressive.
Yeah, so certain things like that. Just like you just look back on it and like, I gave her a hard time in middle school. Like I was always just like pretending to be emo and things, and that was tough.
How do you pretend to be emo? You were being emo. You can't pretend to be emo.
Well, you know, I mean, in the sense of like culture, like I got swoopy bangs and like definitely bought T-shirts of bands I knew one song of. Okay, but so for sure,
you were an emo poser.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Because I also was like trying to fit in, like. I was pretty much the blackest person in my high school, and I'm half Puerto Rican. Okay. So I went to a very white school. So everything my family did was like very different. So for sure, posing. I wanted to be white very bad.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. I named all my dolls like Katie or Elizabeth when I was little. I just wanted.
Is your mom
My
Puerto
mom's
Rican?
Puerto Rican, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How'd she feel about you wanting to be white so badly?
I mean, she went through it too because she basically went to a school where it was like black kids, white kids, and she got beat up for not being either of enough of either.
Oh, so she also wanted to be white?
Well, she won't say that out loud, but I've seen pictures of what she did to her hair in high school. Just wanted it to be straight and blonde very badly, which like I don't, now it's like we're allowed to embrace any difference. Yeah. But even when I was growing up, like learning Spanish would have put you in slow classes.
Yeah.
I'm realizing now that in a segment where you're apologizing to your mom for being a little bit of
I'm making fun of her.
Yeah, I'm asking you to.
Yeah.
Did your mom want to be white?
Yeah. What am I doing? But but I've learned that perspective of how many things she had to go to because I don't speak Spanish fluently. Like I could go conversationally speak it, and that's something like, I'm sure I made a comment to her like, why didn't you teach me Spanish? But now that I can look back and know she was a single mom, she would have had 2 kids being held back in classes because if you didn't speak English, they put you in other classes. Now it's like everyone goes to Spanish immersion schools and the parents don't know a different language. So at that time, she was really worried about us falling behind because she was by herself.
Yeah.
Like my aunt helped raise us, but she was doing the best she could, and the last thing she would want is for us to struggle in school and be like different. And because she had a hard time in elementary school, like she went home, everyone spoke Spanish, her parents couldn't help her with homework because they didn't speak English. So I always look back at things like I probably said that were heartbreaking to her. So that's what the apology comes from. I definitely did things that now I'm like, I can see the larger picture of it all. I'm like, wow, what a little, like I watched a home video I hadn't seen recently, and my dad was named Jim. And so he passed away. I never met my dad. And my sister was like away for something. So I had like one-on-one time with my mom. So she's like filming me and I'm blowing bubbles. And my mom waves at one of our neighbor, and I think his name happened to be Jim. So she's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I lean over into the camera and I go, "Is that my dad?" And I just watched that recently. I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And my mom like couldn't even share that with anyone. So I'm like, "Yeah, I could apologize to her every day of my life, and it wouldn't be enough."
My bad, Mom.
Yeah, my fault.
Okay. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ace, keep it moving.
All right, we are at the gut chakra. So,
Okay.
Jamie, how do you move past disappointment in yourself or your loved ones?
Yeah. How do I move past it? I think it goes back to the last one too. It's just kind of apologizing, moving on, accepting. Like not, again, with the gray area, like not everything's black and white. I can learn from a lot of things. Like if I have a rough go of it one night, I'll definitely be tough on myself for a while. I just reference myself as being a pretty sloppy, sad person. Like when I'm sad about something, I'm pretty like just like blubbery for a little. I let it hit hard first, and then I allow myself to like heal quickly instead of being like trying to push it away. Yeah.
Okay. So I like to ask people in this section, like, was there a time growing up that you maybe did a performance art or a sport where you experienced the disappointment that you still think about sometimes?
Oh, hell yeah. So I'm competitive, like personality wise by nature, and I played sports growing up, but my sister excels at everything she does. She's great. She works really hard, but also naturally, she was just always, so I was always kind of the jokey, chubby one. Yeah. Cool. The good hang, you know? Yeah. It all ties together. I'm fine. Everything's fine. But so like things came to her naturally. So when I played sports and I just wasn't as good or wasn't driving as hard, I was getting really down on myself. Like I danced, I played softball, but I often felt a pain in my legs, and it was chalked up to shin splints like my whole life. And then basically like 7th grade, I went and played field hockey, and I played at camp, and I loved it. But they ran like 3 miles every morning as a warm up. I was like, I can't do that. Like my legs like physically hurt. But it was chalked up to just like pain, me being slow, complaining. Like every doctor was just like, just shin splints. Yeah. So I never.
Funny girls complaining about pain again, guys.
Yeah. Like, okay. Yeah. And then, so you just listen to your doctors, you just move on. So then in high school, I played softball for school maybe in 9th grade. And then I just played like our intramural, like fun league. And I was always like mouthy, like I definitely got in fights and like, things like that when I was playing, but I know I could have done more. And it was just, I really love sports. So it wasn't until I get into college, we had a family friend over who saw me walk and was like, "You're flat-footed. Have you ever gotten checked out for that?" So I go, and over the last 8 years, seen a series of doctors, found out I have no cartilage in my knees because what they were calling shin splints was my knees have just been wearing down on each other. I basically have all these knee issues that were ignored. So the disappointment is, almost every day I wake up and look at like a college athlete and I'm like, what could I have done if anyone listened to me at a younger age?
Yeah.
Because then I just got down and was told, like the first doctor I saw, and I went to like the top orthopedic, like I don't want to name drop hospitals, but I went to 3 of the best hospitals on the East Coast for this. The first guy said, "Oh, your ACL is hanging on by a thread. Like anything you do is just like prolonging this and it's going to tear. And you have bone spurs." And I was like, okay. But I ignored that because you can't tell an ACL is about to tear without checking it out. Yeah. So I like started working out with trainers, but no one could ever like determine the knee pain really. So the second doctor immediately was like, "You have arthritis. Like all you can do is physical therapy." And I was like, also not helpful. She's like, "You can get like injections every year." And then the third doctor finally just was like, "I have this patellofemoral pain syndrome in my knees." And she showed me, she's like, "You basically have no cartilage in either of this. Your kneecaps just touch when you do stuff. So all I can do is certain workouts." But I'm like, wow, no one listened to me when I was little.
Yeah.
My mom still gets, shout out, sorry mom again. She gets really upset about it now because she's like, I wish I'd known more, like been able to push more, but like doctors don't really listen to little girls saying like, my legs hurt when I run. They're like,
Well,
Yeah.
they don't listen to funny little girls.
yeah.
You were too funny for
I
your
was
own
too
good.
charismatic.
Yeah.
It's true. My sister is like a pusher. She's also funny, but she's like would have gotten stuff done. Like, and whenever I've needed her, she's like really pushed through. That's my disappointment. And I still think about that. That one still hurts because I'm like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been, at UCLA, like fast pitch softball, but I wish, because it made me like very, it impacted my confidence because I just had a bunch of people basically tell me I was fat and slow,
Yeah.
which I was neither. I literally had an issue going on in my legs that,
Well, I mean,
could
You
be
were
fat and
fat.
slow.
You were fat and
Yeah,
slow.
yeah. Knew that was coming. Yeah.
yeah, but the cause of it. There was
Well,
something
but what's
that was
wild
causing
is you look back and I'll be like, oh, I was fat and slow. I look at pictures. I was like, what? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's wow. Okay.
Yeah, very disappointing because now at like age 28, I finally got a true diagnosis. I went to physical therapy and like don't have as much knee pain for the first time in my life. And I was just like, wow,
What
I
did
wish
they do to? What did you
it
do?
was honestly so simple, and that's
Yeah.
what's the most frustrating.
Yeah.
I almost cried at physical therapy every day because I was so mad at how simple
10
the
minutes of
exercise.
twerk in a day.
Yeah, literally, I just watched these videos of Meg the Stallion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was.
No, but what? Yeah. So what is it exactly?
Yeah, I mean, just like a lot of resistance band and just basically the muscles, like everything around my knees is all I can strengthen, which sounds so simple.
Yeah.
But it's just like a lot of like figuring out what muscles I needed to strengthen and specifically targeting them. And honestly, it was like 8 to 12 weeks, my first round of physical therapy, and I felt better, but I was so mad at my physical therapist because I was like, this is all.
Yeah.
And I had doctors telling me I needed surgery and to do this. And
Yeah.
I was like, some lady literally told me I had the knees, a doctor at, I'm going to shout this one out because fuck New York, the hospital for special surgery, which like they have like every athlete in the world has gone there for surgery. Like, and they told me, like, she barely looked at me and she was like, yeah, you have arthritis. Like, this is like immediately just like looked at and she was like, yeah, you have the knees of like an old person. And didn't even help me.
You're
And I was like,
yeah, this is a fat girl problem.
yeah. They're like, quit it.
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty cool. I mean, I will say this really quickly. I feel like getting hit by a car when I was a kid was definitely devastating and pretty traumatic when I was a kid. But I learned so much about how to take care of my body that now in my life, like that is probably the information that I use the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I get where you're. I get that. Like I'm listening to your story and I'm like cringing a little bit. Like when I think what my life could have been if I had not learned that information with that injury growing up. Like
right.
Through it,
And that's what's frustrating is like I just kept pushing through and wanting to play sports because I wanted to be with my friends. I wanted to hang out. I love playing sports. Like still love watching sports and everything. And I still have this like frustration. Like my mom and I were just like playing like with paddle ball on the beach the other day. And she was like a what if? And I was like, honestly, I will start crying if we talk about it because it's like, it is a big, huge like what if. And I did end up learning how to shit talk really well because of it, because I had to sit on the bench a lot of time and I just was shit talking. And I just told this story recently to a friend, but I ended up getting hit by pitch more than anybody else in our league because I would run my mouth so much.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
Most targeted. All right. That's pretty sick. So we'll consider that all a
big
gut
disappointment.
chakra unlocked.
She's a big disappointment.
Big disappointment chakra unlocked.
Big fat disappointment.
So Ansley, keep it moving.
All right. We are to the heart chakra.
Okay.
So Jamie, what have you learned from grief?
Oh, okay. Any kind of grief. Obviously, we like immediately go death grief. I think as you guys, I alluded to and said a little bit that my mom experienced grief while I was in the womb. Didn't know she was pregnant yet. So death has been very like involved in my origin story, I'll say.
Yeah.
So I think I luckily learned grief being a part of life from the day I was born. So I think that was such an advantage for me knowing that. And grief has always been intertwined in my life. So I didn't feel like it was like a lesson learned. It was something I watched. So I feel like that was actually a huge advantage. I don't think I answered your question, but.
Yeah, no. So I think what would answer the question is, what is that advantage?
Yeah, I think it just has always let me live life with a sense of freedom. Like people that don't know about death till later in life. Like, did you have any friends that, this may be either of you, I'm not sure, but like their first death was like a grandparent when you're in college? I'm like, like I tried not to be crass about it, but I was like, yeah, that's it. You're lucky. Because I would always see it as, you're so lucky you had them in your life for so long. Because there was a lot of, and I kind of do a joke about this, but when people find out that my dad died before I was born, they're always like, oh, well, you didn't know him. Yeah. Like, it's always like they get like relieved by it. I'm like, yeah, but that whole missing piece forever and unanswered questions forever is a little tricky to navigate. Yeah. So I think having, it's not an advantage that happened, but I learned a lot early and watched how people respond to that early. And it wasn't like a traumatic learning experience. Obviously, there were things that were traumatic that I didn't see and wasn't necessarily privy to, but it's opened me up to a lot more freedom of not fearing death. Obviously, I don't want to die, but I don't have that experience where like it was so devastating when the first person near me died. I was like, that's death. And my stepdad's a doctor. We're always very open that people die. Like it wasn't a secret. America culturally, we push our old people in homes. We don't talk about death. Like, and then we make it this very sudden, tragic, except now that we're obsessed with true crime. That's weird. But I think the advantage was understanding that that's a part of life.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was thinking about, while you were saying that, how when you say that your dad died before you were born and people say, well, you didn't know him, it's kind of not even completely correct, because you do know him as it relates to death, right? Right. He is your direct association with death. So everything that you've known about your father and everything that you've known about death have been synonymous. They come at the same time. So, and I don't mean to say this, but I also mean to say this because the word. Is it about my mom? Because yeah, let's talk about your bitch ass.
She's a saint.
I could see not having a fear of death for somebody whose association with death is the only thing they know about their father.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
Totally. And as I joked about that home video when I was 2 or something, obviously the understanding of what actually happened doesn't happen but till later. But you know how people look at a baby when they find out that dad died? Like my whole life, that whole frame of reference and like life I don't remember is people pitying me. Yeah. And something I never want to treat people when they're going through death or anything is happening. You want to support people, and that's just also my story. So whenever people give me this like, I'm like, everyone goes through different things, and that was what happened. So people treat it like it's this kind of delicate situation, and they apologize or this, that. I'm like, for me, I'm like, I get more offended when people don't really ask me about it, because I'm like, that's just my life. So it's not anything foreign to me. And I get it's foreign for other people. And as I've grown up, I've tried to understand that more. And like when I do have friends that sob for days over losing a grandparent, I'm like, can't relate. Like I try to, but I'm like, I'd really try to cherish that you had as much time with that person as you did. Yeah. And I feel like the people that cry the most didn't cherish the time maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, and also too, people are when people are looking at an experience of another person's life from their own perspective, they can only look at it from who they are now. And they can, even if they're trying to think of it from when they were kids, they're looking at it on the way that they view their own childhood as an adult, right? Yeah. And so when they look back on something like that, like from their perspective as an adult, trying to think back to when they were a kid, it's completely so destabilizing for their perspective that they can't imagine it being anything other than traumatic.
I get a lot of I can't imagine like about your mother, and I've gotten that sometimes. Like I said, being nanny, I was around a lot of parents and things like that, and I would hear like parents complain about their partner being at work. Like, I can't imagine doing this alone. Like I can't imagine, and I'm like, not to be like I could or like people do it, or like to be like. There are other situations, not for better or for worse, but I think people don't realize when they say things like that, like everyone's story is different. Yeah. And you might not want it to happen that way, but it is just what happened to me.
Yeah. When do you remember like the first time, or like maybe it wasn't like a moment, maybe it was like you said, you were growing up with it though, but like the conversations you had with your mom, like to really like maybe the first time you understood what your mom went through?
Yeah. That's a great question. I don't think I'll ever understand it.
Yeah.
Just
So
recently.
you can't imagine.
I cannot imagine what this bitch went through. I truly, honestly, probably when I was 18, like getting into college, because I have a whole, my dad was married previously, so I have siblings I've never met. There's like a whole thing.
Okay.
So I just learned more. My mom was very gracious and never really spoke badly on anyone, or she just wanted me to develop my own like feelings for this family and like figure it out basically on my own. But I just kind of heard more and more as I got older. And then when I think about, as a nanny, I'm like looking at these women be pregnant and going through these situations, and like just thinking about this, my dad passed away at home, like unexpectedly had a heart attack. So my mom woke up in a house with a 2-year-old, not knowing she was pregnant yet.
Yeah.
And I truly can't imagine. I know, I get it, I hear it, but even when I think about it and know her, that's why I always want to apologize to her, because I'm like, she's truly been through hell and back. She could have given up a million different ways. She didn't. She raised a rock star kid, and my sisters are all right. Well. Yeah. True. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. That is a heart chakra unlocked. Ace, keep it moving.
All right, so Jamie, we're to the throat chakra. So what is a favorite lie you have told or tell? You get extra karmic points if it's still in rotation.
Good to see you. I am notorious for being good at small talk. Yeah. People have seen it. People see me do it even at the comedy shows. And it's not that I don't care for people. I am good at remembering something about someone, saying, hey, how are you? How's this going? Great to see you. And pulling back. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people think we're either closer friends than we are, or that they know me pretty well. But I don't really, you guys just heard a lot about me, but I wouldn't say you know. It's still technically, again, to me, surface level. Yeah. So I often, and it's not bad to see the person, but it's just a formality, a phrase that I say. If I'm a really bad liar, but that is one thing I definitely...
Wait, your hello is a lie? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Your version of hello is a lie. That's what I'm hearing. Are you hearing that?
Yeah.
It is not good to see you, Sidney.
It
is not good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. No, I probably just said, hey. I think it's, I like making people feel good. And it's not necessarily, it's not a hardened lie. It's just something I just say. And I don't always necessarily mean good to see you. I didn't wake up that morning thinking I was going to see that person, so it doesn't inherently mean it's good to see them. It doesn't mean it's bad to see them. I just think it's just what comes out of my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a person that is a good hang, like all of your hellos can't be the truth.
Yeah.
You know what
Someone recently told me that they saw me, and this is bad. I a very expressive face, and they saw me say hello to someone at Helium and turn around, and they were laughing. And this person that told me this, I was like, why are you laughing? They're like, your face dropped so quickly as soon as you walked out of that conversation. Like it was just night and day. He's like, I don't think you're fake. I think you just want to make people feel open and good. But it was so funny to see it quickly switch.
Can't help but wonder if that was me.
Yeah, probably.
It's not all about you.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
Could have been anybody. Honestly, sometimes I like making people feel good. Like saying hi, especially I work from home all day. Like this is the longest I've been with a human. Well, I saw my trainer today, but shout out to her. She's very nice. I talked to her for a half hour, but this is my human interaction for the day. So
I feel honored.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Yeah. Okay.
I know, I don't mean to flip your world upside down, but I truly can't lie. I'm a bad liar. So I do genuinely...
I don't believe that. Nobody that's a good hang is a bad liar.
I
was just thinking about this the other day. There's two... So here's why a lot of people that think they're good liars are not, right? You have people that think they're good liars, and what they do is they just wear people down to the point that people don't even want to ask questions anymore. Yeah. Right?
I agree with that.
And then you have people that get off on the fact that their lies are good. It's a very different type of liar. Like, with that liar, they don't get follow-up questions. Do you know what I mean? Because they're actually a good liar. So...
No, I genuinely, like, if you ask me any question, I, for whatever reason, just will tell you everything.
Okay. So you're not, it's not that you're a bad liar, but you're better at telling the truth.
I just rather would. And I think it goes back to like life is short. I'm like, it takes so much energy to lie and
It
remembering that
does.
stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
ugh, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt anybody. Like, I'll keep stuff to myself. It maybe would hurt someone, but
Yeah. It's a lie by omission. No big deal.
yeah.
Yeah. Still a lie. Still a lie. No big deal. No, I'm just
I'm like,
kidding, I'm just
I'm like,
kidding. We're not
part of
gonna-
me wants to like prove it, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I do like all my jokes are like very open, honest, and I just keep it like straight, you know?
All right. Throat chakra unlocked.
Yep.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
That ain't true. All right, Ace, keep it moving.
All right. We are to the third eye now. So we're out of the physical into the metaphysical.
Okay.
So, Jamie, what is something you've always thought of as separate, but as you've gotten older, you've learned it's really the same?
This is maybe a little more of a concept than something tangible, and I just think the world is so small. Like every problem can be relative, but I just feel like there's a finite amount of like issue categories that we all go through, and though we're like fighting about different things and all across the board think you're so different from another person, we just keep things private. And I feel like I like being open and honest with people because you realize how much you can relate to someone you might not think you would have related to.
Yeah. Okay. So you're like with you when you're telling people your situation, they're like, "Oh my God, I couldn't imagine." No. It's just classic losing a parent as a kid. It's just
Classic heart attack.
happens to everyone. Yeah,
Classic dead dad.
Yes, yeah.
But think
Classic
about growing
dad.
up. When I grew up, I was born in 92. Every show and every Disney movie, there's one parent. I was like, whatever, I'm a Disney princess. Suck it. I was like, everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Full House. Bob Saget was by himself. My sister and I, she would hate that I was telling anybody this, but she's never going to listen to this. There was always like a violin that would start playing in Full House, and they would always start a sentence with "ever since Pam died." So we would always do that bit with each other. Or in Finding Nemo, he's like, "I never knew my father." Like one of the sharks says that. I send that to my mom every Father's Day. Sorry again.
I never noticed that in Full House.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, well, and it's like every show, you know, there was like missing parent. Like
It was
the
like
time novelty.
Right?
It was like
3 Men and a
let's
Little
kill these
Baby.
people
Yeah,
off.
it was
Yeah,
like always a
it was like
missing.
always the mom. I was like, please find me
Yeah.
a single dad in the 90s.
That is wild. Like you're seeing dead dad stuff everywhere
Yeah.
growing up.
Though there was one that really hit me. It was Rugrats in Paris. Chucky's mom is dead in the Rugrats.
Uh-huh.
And I was at the movie theater with a friend watching it. And I will always remember this. And they're on the airplane. And Chucky, like, everyone's sitting on their mom's lap and, like, looking. And Chucky's, like, without a mom. And I was like, fuck. Yeah, tough.
Lion King.
Yeah.
Dad.
And then that's when it kind of occurred to me. I was like, oh, like, I think I was probably 7 when I thought, do my friends' parents pity us? Like, and I wouldn't have the language for that. But it was
Yeah.
definitely a thought, yeah.
Do you have any dead dad deep cuts? Like is the Michelin Man? Did his dad die when he was a kid? Like stuff like that. Do you have anything that?
I think the Rugrats in Paris is like the most embarrassing. I don't even know why I said that out loud just
Yeah.
now. It was just like,
Or, I guess what I'm asking, do you have anything like? Well, you probably wouldn't know, but this person's dad. You know, like.
yeah, I'm trying to think of anything like that. Nothing's coming to mind because it felt so prevalent before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's like written like there's only 2 Disney movies where the characters have both their parents.
What 2 of those?
Sleeping Beauty and 101 Dalmatians.
Huh. 100. Yeah, because
The-
it's dogs.
Yeah, the dogs are both alive. They didn't kill a dog, but they'll
Yeah.
kill a human.
That.
And Sleeping Beauty, her parents just like drop her off in the woods or whatever the story is.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
Oh,
yeah.
terrible
Yeah,
parents.
she's
But
like
they're both
she's like with the fairies, like,
Yeah.
but they still were alive somewhere.
Yeah.
alive. Technically, she had no parents. Though.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
honestly, when
yeah.
we're talking about representation, I was well represented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Pretty sick.
There were like one parent. That's the dream. That's the
Yeah.
household.
Yeah.
That's
But
how you make. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also very much like your answer to this question, which is that all problems are kind of the same. There's like like a very limited amount of problem categories, but everybody wants to believe that their problems are so big.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
It's like,
and unique.
dude, this is classic. Can't get laid. Calm down. You'll be
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think I learned that from nannying too, because I was with people that have like a lot of money at times and things, and then I would hear like calls they would have with family or arguments they have with family, and I was like, one of us. And not that I didn't grow up comfortably or anything, but like everyone's got a wacky like uncle. Like everyone has like it's just things like that just fall in the same category of like frustrations and things. Like if we just generalize the categories a little more, everything we can all relate a little bit more. Obviously there's relative, but
were there vacations where you like when you went on them, you're like, oh, well, this is like, okay, maybe the hotel's a little bit nicer, but this is like everybody's vacation? Or were you like, wow, these people travel different?
Travel different.
Yeah.
But that's just like, I wouldn't nanny for.
You're traveling with a nanny, Ansley.
I know.
That's already
I can't
traveling
imagine,
different.
Sydney. I just can't imagine.
It's definitely different, but you still see the same stuff. Like, husband forgot to book the dinner, like this, that, like stuff like, the rental car didn't have enough car seats, like stuff like there's always something, even if you're on a remote lake that you took a private plane to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's pretty third eye chakra unlocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sick. And we didn't even ask you, do you have time to stick around for the Patreon?
Here.
Okay.
Showed up early, staying late. Think I'm sleeping over.
Hell yeah. All right. So, Ansley, let's keep this moving, first of all.
All right. We are to the crown chakra.
Okay.
So it's a 2-part one. So, Jamie, what is one thing you can't give up and why? And what would giving it up mean?
And this can be physical thing, anything I can't give up?
Yeah, anything.
One thing I couldn't give up. I truly, I know I talked about this a little, and this is going to sound silly. I did talk about my family a lot, and obviously I wouldn't give up family time, but the first thing that came to mind was watching sports. It's truly just something, and it coincides with my family time, but truly something that I don't think I could give up. It like brings my friends, family together. It's something I do by myself. Like I just truly love having a sport to watch and like something bigger than myself to root for.
Mm-hmm.
And something to turn my brain off sometimes and just watch a bunch of grown men and women do their thing.
Yeah.
You don't, what would, if you had to stop watching sports, what do you think would occupy that time?
Puzzles. Because honestly, during the pandemic, there was like a pause in a lot of sports.
Oh, yeah.
So I do puzzles normally. That was half a joke. What occupied that time was writing and spending time with the people that I could safely spend time with at that time. But, just hanging out with them. It was a bit of a shock. Not the thought of like, oh, I might not be able to watch baseball this year was like a crazy thought, and having a loss of like the NBA bubble and things like that. So it was a thought for a second. I was like, wow, what if I didn't have sports for a year? It came like a what if.
Yeah.
I have other hobbies and I'm okay doing other things, but that is one central grounding element to my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a crown chakra unlocked. You just became enlightened. Jamie, how do you feel?
Good to be here. Good to see you both.
Also, thank you for your patience in dealing with those technical difficulties. You were a world champion hang.
Yeah, I was just hanging out. I didn't have anything. It takes a lot to make me mad, I think.
We'll find
it. Keep looking. That's for the Patreon.
She also didn't cry.
Not at all.
So
I'm very proud of myself. I cried listening to Shaylin's episode. I will say that right now.
We'll take that.
Yeah.
We'll take that as
and I texted her to let her know, and she was like, why?
Okay, so we're going to jump into the Patreon. $1 gets you all of our exclusive content, which not only includes the counter to this podcast, which we call 2 Jack Bros After Dark, but it also includes all of our fight commentary and analysis that we do on Answer Just Matches, which we are so behind on.
So behind.
World champion. How do we not have that one done?
Because she's a world champion. She's got things going on.
Yeah.
Okay. We see what she thinks being a world champion means.
Busy time.
Yeah.
Excuses.
And also check out Jamie's show, which is called
This Should Be Good Comedy.
October 12th. Where is it going to be?
Yeah, that one's at a brewery in South Philly. And I guess follow me on Instagram, which you can find through This Should Be Good. Can I keep going with my plugs?
Yeah.
Also, when you go on my Instagram, actually follow me on Twitter, Jamie Amalia. And then you can find my OnlyFans from there.
Okay.
Do it.
Check out Jamie's OnlyFans.
Yeah. Sorry, Mom, again.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
She knows. We're cool.
All right, cool. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. We love you guys, and we are out.
See ya.
2 Jack Bros. 2 Jack